Gia.
In the 90s, Angelina Jolie mesmerized the world with her unforgettable performances from Gia to Girl Interrupted, Gone in 60 Seconds, seemingly everywhere and in everything. Today, Hollywood hairstylist and legend Emanuel Millar returns once again to share his experiences working with Angelina. Together, they worked on 5 movies in a 3-year period, which is amazing. Super excited. Let's do it, guys. Mr. Emanuel, welcome back. As always, it's an honor. Miss Angelina Jolie, 5 movies, Gia, Pushing 10, Playing by Heart, Girl Interrupted, and Gone in 60 Seconds. 5 movies in a 3-year period, which is super impressive. Gia being the first movie. When you got the call for Gia, I mean, was this a dream project for you? Because, you know, she's obviously a model in real life. She plays a model in the movie. And, you know, you got to showcase multiple looks, hairstyles throughout the film.
Yes, it was. First of all, Chris, thank you for having me back. I thoroughly enjoyed talking about my book, The Kindest Cut. The phone call that I got was Janine Schreier, who was Angelina's makeup artist, who had just worked with her. The first words out of her mouth were, "Before you say no, you're not going to want to turn this one down." She said, "I've just worked with this young, talented actress. She's Jon Voight's daughter." And one of the most impressive things was there was 2 hair and makeup trailers. One was for the other hair and makeup people and the actors of the rest of the cast. And Angelina had her own trailer. It was just me, Janine, and Angelina in a 6 makeup and hair trailer. And I had never had that before. And I thought to myself, who is this young girl that I'd never heard of who can request and get her own trailer? And I thought that was pretty impressive.
Meeting Angelina for the first time, did you already sense or get the feeling that she would be the star that she is today?
Besides being impressed with somebody getting their own hair and makeup trailer and requesting her own hair and makeup people, after seeing her do the first scene that I came into set with, and that was she was working with Mercedes Ruehl, an Academy Award-winning actress who was playing Angie's mother. The scene was throwing her mother out of the house and saying, get out, and taking her suitcase and flinging it down the hall. And after that scene was over and the director yelled, cut, I said, Angie, can we go back in the trailer? And she said, what's wrong? And when we got to the trailer, I said, I just need to make sure the wig's on good. I said, I didn't know you were a real actress. And she looked at me and she said, what does that mean? I just said, you are going to be a big star. I said, one of the biggest. And she said, really? And she just looked at me and I said, huge. And that was it. I mean, she later on, she actually a few films later put me in her contract. And when I asked why, I'll never forget, she said, I want to surround myself with people who see me the way I see myself.
Well, she looked amazing. I mean, even at the end when Gia's character, you know, gets ill, her transformation on screen, I mean, she looked very rough, but I mean, you know, in the best way. I mean, it looked real. I mean, she looked very sick. How did you do that? I mean, did you really have to shave her head?
That's a huge compliment. Thank you for that. She wanted to shave her real head. She didn't want a bald cap. She didn't want little pieces of hair. She wanted it to look as real as possible. And again, every day Angelina confirmed to me, this woman goes for it. It's not about her looks. Am I going to look silly or am I going to look beautiful? It was, I need to do whatever the scene calls for, I will do it.
And real quick, Emanuel, just to confirm, during the Asian motorcycle sequence that happened earlier, she was wearing the wig, but her head was already shaved at that point, right? I mean, was it an issue knowing that she was going to be on a motorcycle driving around with the wind and everything?
The costumer came to me at one point and he said he had designed this big red ball gown and it was a famous photo shoot that the real Gia did, and she's going to hop on the back of a motorcycle and ride off over the Brooklyn Bridge, because we filmed almost everything in Los Angeles, and then we flew to New York for that one scene to get the real Brooklyn Bridge. And when I heard him say she's going to hop on the back of a motorcycle, all I thought was, how am I going to get this wig, this full wig with all these designs on it to stand a woman who's at this point was going to be completely bald? So with by the grace of God and a song and a prayer, that wig with a lot of double stick tape and gluing down the lace in the front. It stayed on, and that scene was shot, and but people still find out that was a wig, or people say those were wigs, and that was to my credit.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, again, I'm learning more about hair as we go, but watching the movies then and rewatching now, I just assumed that Angelina had that hair that you could fix or style however you wanted. So it just, again, congrats. Overall, within the 5 films, 3-year period, do you have a favorite? Was there one specific look that you enjoyed creating most?
Yes, as much as I like Gia and all the wigs, and it was fun, and then pushing tin with the long hair and bangs, I like that. But my favorite look was, I'm torn between Girl Interrupted and Gone in 60 Seconds. On Girl Interrupted, right before we were about to shoot, Angie said, it needs bangs. And now this is a wig I put on her, and I said, well, we can cut bangs. So I cut some bangs that most women would say, not too short. And so I cut them once, and she said, no, shorter. And she grabbed the scissors out of my hand. I mean, playfully, but grabbed the scissors out of my hand and snipped the bangs. And I said, Ange. And she said, what? And I said, it's a wig. These are not going to grow if they don't like it. I've got to send the wig back to Los Angeles to have them put the wig in. And she said, no, they're fine. And that was, again, the first time that I realized this girl, in the 5 movies, I'd never seen her ask a producer or the studio heads or anybody. She would just say to me, this is how it's going to be, or do this, or we're going to do this together. It wasn't demanding. It was, I have a vision. Well, she played a crazy girl who was in an institute, so she gave herself crazy bangs.
Working with an ensemble cast, I mean, you had Winona, you had Brittany, so many others. They were all very young, but all of these young actors working together, was it a smooth production? Did they get along?
Winona, which surprised me, and Winona from Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, I think she was intimidated by Angelina, because she would come and watch the dailies, and I'd see her watching and look like she was just sitting there nervous. And then after Angie's scene, she would go back, and it seems like I felt like she was intimidated. Then one day, Angie came up to Janine and I, and she said, the producers came up to me and said, Winona thinks that you and your people don't like her. And I was so shocked. I thought, Winona almost never spoke with us, never acknowledged us, rarely spoke to Angelina off camera. And I thought, how interesting to have somebody with Winona's stature or where she was in the business to be insecure or think that we didn't like her. That was so far from the truth. I mean, I admired her, and Angie said, don't say anything. She said, don't say anything, you guys. Well, as soon as you tell me don't do something, I'm going to go do it. And I think that the next day I went up to Winona on set, and I said, hello, Winona. And she said, hello, Manny. And I said, it's such an honor to be working with you. I said, it really is such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And from that point on, Winona would smile and say hello, but I just wanted to ease the tension and just dispel whatever Winona thought in her head that we didn't like her was so far from the truth.
I can see that. I mean, Angelina was, the new girl on the block. She was the rising star, and Winona was, already, well established at that point. And so, but Angelina's energy, I mean, it was new, it was edgy, it was fresh, it was addicting. I mean, she was obviously she was the one getting everyone's attention.
Any young actor or actress listening to this, that's the lesson here. And that's why in my book, The Kindest Cut, Intuitive Life Lessons Learned by a Hollywood Hairstylist, I say that to people, that just be good, just be so good that people just want to see more of you. It's not, what am I wearing? How do I look? Who's my agent? What do I have? Just be good. And Angelina was just good. She was a buzz. I saw her go from Gia to Who Is This Girl to, I mean, there was one thing, I think it was a Golden Globe speech or an Academy Award where Angie thanked Janine and I.
Janine, Manny, Johnny, Tim, all my friends, everybody that I care about. My family.
I did see that speech. Congrats. Yes, she won the Golden Globe for Gia, then she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in Girl Interrupted. She was just exploding into Hollywood, I mean, into the world. All of this is so epic. So after Girl Interrupted, you jump right into Gone in 60 Seconds, which is a bigger movie, bigger cast. It's a Bruckheimer production. I love the lighting and colors they use in every Bruckheimer production. It's actually inspired some of my work. But both Angelina and Nick Cage had lighter hair in this movie. Was that a decision or a factor production-wise, or was that just coincidence?
I got a phone call from Jerry Bruckheimer, and he said, "What's going on with the hair?" I said, "Jerry," I said, if you put your only woman, your leading lady, in a movie that's shot mostly at night with dark hair, I said, you're going to lose her." And I said, "You need this light hair." He said, "You know what?" He said, "Okay, we'll test the white hair." And the next day I got a wig. It was a cheap synthetic wig. We did the hair and makeup test. And the next day they called us and they said, "We're going to view the test." And I was ready to just be fired, or to just say, "We're replacing you." And all of a sudden, after the test was over, Dominic Sena and Jerry, they turned to me and they said, "We're going to go with the white wig," because they saw that you're right. And she had the blue contacts in. She lit up.
I've seen it so many times. I love Gone in 60 Seconds, but unfortunately, this was the last movie that you worked on together, right? It was really because of a scheduling conflict, but in your memoir, she obviously took it, more personal. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I was called about a project called Remember the Titans, and Jerry himself said, "This is a heart project. I would love to have you on it." And I said, "I'd love to do it." And I'm so glad I did Remember the Titans. So I left Gone in 60 Seconds 3 days early. And Angie didn't seem to like that. She said, "You're leaving this movie?" She said, "This doesn't look good for me." I said, "Angie, it's a Jerry Bruckheimer project. He's producing this one." I said, "He's asked me to be on it." And she said, "Well, that's good, isn't it?" And I think that was what sealed the deal. When I saw her on the set of Inglourious Bastards, she acted as if she didn't know me. And we'd gotten so close. At one point, she fell asleep in my arms while I was at her apartment doing Girl Interrupted in Harrisburg. And she said to me, You're like a father to me. You care about me." And I really loved her very much like a daughter. I did. I was happy for her. I was proud of her. But so while I was on Remember the Titans, I heard that a movie was coming to Savannah and it was Billy Bob Thornton and Cate Blanchett. And I thought, "Oh, Cate Blanchett, I'd love to work with her." And at one point, Cate on Pushing Tin told me she would love to work with me. So I made a phone call. 20 minutes later, I get a call from London, and it's Cate. She said, "You're available?" And I said, "Yes." And so I went off and did the movie The Gift. Please know, with all sincerity, I'm just telling the stories the way that I lived them and relaying them in my book that way. It's not to glamorize. It's not to say that I'm special or that. I really do feel, by the grace of God, that I've traveled certain parts of the world, a lot of the world, doing by work, not as a tourist, but because of my work, because of what I did, and was invited to be a part of their lives for however long it lasted. So I do hope that people listen to that with that and with that same intent, the same intent that I have.
Emanuel, the way you share your experiences, I mean it. They come across in the most respectful, the most inspirational way. Whether the stories are positive or negative. They're amazing, and I want you to know that. And I really appreciate you, being on the show and sharing. So I really, really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you. Guys, if you haven't already, purchase your copy today of the Kindest Cut, Intuitive Life Lessons Learned by a Hollywood Hairstylist, Volume 1, Volume 2, available now on all major platforms. I will have links in the description. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for believing, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.